Okay, so that was Echo on, I guess, a pretty average day. It gets a lot better than that, but it also gets a hell of a lot worse. So it was pretty fun. There was also not that many people out, which for this time of year is pretty sick. So I managed to get a couple little clips, do a few little backhand turns. The south wind was pretty strong, so it was kind of like cross shore, but there was still a few peaks, and with that many people for out there, it was pretty good. So I hope that shows you a little glimpse into, I guess, what Echo offers on just like an average day. Like sometimes there's barrels, sometimes there's really good like wind for airs and stuff. I mean, I can't really do airs, so it doesn't matter to me, but so Echo is broken down into sort of 3 main zones. Immediately out front, you've got a left reef break, which is super punchy, super powerful, can have barrels on the right day. Then on the other side of the same beach, you've got a right-hand reef break, which again, can be really, really fun, really punchy, really sick for turns and like high performance surfing, but it does get crowded. And then in between those 2 reef breaks, you've got a really fun, punchy, like wedgy beach break, which is where I just surfed, and that's like my go-to spot. It's really fun. You've got a predominant like left wedge that kind of peaks up and then runs off lefts, and then there's a few other peaks like next to it. Pretty fun wave, and it's just like a really easy place to surf and can serve up like a range of different conditions. So that's Echo, and then immediately across from Echo, you've got Old Man's. Now, if you're a longboarder, beginner, or intermediate looking to, I guess, progress onto some easy unbroken waves, Old Man's is the spot because it's reef break, but it breaks in really deep water, so it breaks out of the back and then it kind of reforms, goes really fat, and just gives you that chance to progress from the white water to the unbroken wave without, I guess, like the intimidating nature of like a really steep wave. Just watch out for the shore break at high tide. In front of Old Man's, you've got loads of different like surf schools and hire shops, so it's a really easy place to just head down and, you know, grab some coaching or grab a board and head out. And then up and down the coast, there's a few other different beach breaks and peaks that you can surf, but I'll let you go and explore and check those out for yourself. So just some tips for surfing in Canggu. Now, the first one I want to mention is the crowds. Obviously, with somewhere that well established on everyone's surfing radar, crowds are insane. Now, I know today it wasn't actually too bad. Basically, anywhere you surf in Canggu is just insanely crowded. And then you get out and you're stuck in traffic, and everywhere's really busy basically all of the time. And I've found this both in wet and dry season. So not being hypocritical, because it would be stupid for me to complain about the crowd because I am the crowd. You know, I like it just as much as anyone else. So yeah, I guess see a lot of people like complaining about the crowds, but they are part of the crowd. So it's like either don't go or just that's what it is, deal with it. Best time of year for Canggu is kind of you can have fun waves in any time of year really. Like in dry season is the predominant like Indonesian season. This is when you get like the biggest swells and generally the best waves. However, I found Canggu, I've actually had way better surfs during the wet season. So yeah, it's kind of like an all year round surf spot. The other thing I want to mention though is in wet season, it gets really dirty. If in wet season, obviously it rains a shit ton. So all that runoff from the land makes the water super dirty. A few times whilst I've been in Canggu, I haven't even surfed because of the water quality. Like after it rains really, really heavily, it just becomes really brown, and it's like that kind of horrible water that you put your hand in and your hand just disappears. You can't even see your hand under the, like just underneath the surface. So yeah, it's pretty gnarly, like how bad the water gets there. So that's something to bear in mind, especially if you're visiting in the wet season. Because of where the Perairan river mouth runs out, it runs out there and just makes everything super dirty. I remember one morning, like a couple of months ago, I was surfing there and it was after heavy rain, there was no one out. It was kind of like a bit big and onshore, so it wasn't that good, but I just wanted to have a surf. And whilst I was paddling out, there was just all these like sticks of bamboo and like bits of tree and rubbish, and I was like duck diving into it all, and I just came up and I just had like all these like little twigs in my hair and stuff, and I could feel like the bits of rubbish and plastic like all on me, and came up and I was like just trying to keep my mouth closed like that, duck diving. So I caught a couple of waves and then went in because I was like that's not worth the risk of getting ill. If you are worried about getting ill, like if you swallowed some water, drink like a cold Coke straight after, or have like a shot of like vodka or gin. That can kill the bacteria. I will say I'm not a doctor, so don't take that as real advice. I think it's just like an old wives' tale, but yeah, that's something you can do. So as for where to stay in Canggu, you're spoiled for choice. There's just so many options. It's insane. Like whatever your budget, you can just pick something and then go with that. Some of the best budget places to stay, check out Castaway Hostel, Zentire, The Hostel, Canggu, Tipsy Gypsy. There's some really cheap places. You can find dorm rooms there for less than $8 or $9 per night. Super, super cheap. You can find all of them on Hostel World, so I'll leave the links down in the description. If you're after something like affordable but still like a bit more upmarket, so some of the nicer hostels, check out Clandestino Hostel, The Farm, Kos One, and Tribal Bali. There's some great places to stay, and they're kind of like a more upmarket spin on like your standard hostel. You know, they're a bit cleaner, a bit nicer, just better. And again, you can find those dorm rooms for around like 12 to 15 US per night. So if you want your own room, there's some great options as well in Canggu. Check out Bougainvillea. That's my personal favorite. It's my go-to whenever I go back to Bali. Alternatively, check out The Brick. That's just a bit further down, Batu Belong. I stayed there earlier this year and that was a wicked little place to stay. Nice little pool area, really nice clean rooms, and it was just like you could literally walk to Old Man's. Also, one I've stayed at recently as well is Panday Homestay. Also check out Canggu Dream or Canggu Turfa Suites. There are some other wicked options. Now, for all accommodation, check out Hostel World for the cheapest hostel rooms, and check out booking.com where you can basically find any accommodation. Those two websites I use everywhere I go. I basically don't use any other websites. So I'll leave all the links to those accommodations down in the description, but whatever you want to find, you'll find it on those two websites. So if you prefer all of your accommodation, your coaching, your transfers and food all wrapped into one package, check out booksurfcamps.com. They're very much like the authority when it comes to surf camp packages. They run some epic ones in Bali, and if you're not somebody who likes the stress and organization of planning your own trip, check out Book Surf Camps and you can just book everything all in one. Your accommodation, your food, your transport, all your coaching, and a lot of the packages also include other extras like massages, yoga sessions, fitness sessions. It depends on the type you book. In Bali, there's so many different camps. I never really book packages just because I kind of like to do my own thing, and I like to kind of be on my own kind of schedule. But if that sounds a bit more like you, then I'll leave some of the links down in the description. So again, like accommodation, for places to eat in Canggu, you are spoiled for choice. There's just so many options, it's insane. I like eating at Canteen for breakfast, Bumi's for lunch and dinner. Bumi's is like an Indonesian like buffet takeaway sort of joint. Really good, really cheap, and great like Indonesian food. For the same sort of vibe, check out Warung Lokal. That's also got sick Indonesian food. But yeah, you can also find like cheap roadside like bakso trucks, and like the more local like warungs are really, really cheap and you can eat for a few dollars. Whereas you can also go to like the fancy pants, like more expensive upmarket restaurants as well. So there's just everything. Like your accommodation, you can kind of just look at your budget and just, yeah, decide whatever you want to eat. Getting around in Canggu, by far the best is to use a moped. Now, I'd suggest trying to organize your moped through your accommodation. Whenever you book your accommodation, I'd suggest just sending them a message saying, oh, can I also just hire a moped as well? And obviously if you've got your own boards, you want it with a surfboard rack. It just makes everything super easy and convenient. You can drive over to the beach, you can skip back into town, grab some food on the way back, and just go between all the restaurants and bars and beaches and your accommodation. It just gives you the most flexibility. If you're a bit scared of driving on the roads, that's absolutely fine because the roads are insane. You can use Gojek, which is kind of like Uber, but like a moped version. You'll see Gojek bikes everywhere. They wear green uniforms. They're really cheap. You can just download the app and you can basically order them on demand. Or if you see them free in the street, you can ask them just to take you to places. It's a really affordable, easy way to get around Canggu. You know, if you don't have your own bike, you can just hop on a Gojek and get from your accommodation down to the beach or something like that. Otherwise, you can hire a car. Now, this is not something that I'd recommend doing in Bali, just because of the traffic is insane. Like, at least with a moped, you can kind of weave in and out of the cars and drive on the pavement. And yeah, if you haven't been there, that sounds really dangerous, but it's pretty normal in Bali. So driving a car would be a nightmare. You'd be constantly stuck in traffic, especially in Canggu. You can do it, like check out Discover Cars for the best prices. Otherwise, you can get taxis as well, which, you know, you're still in a car, but at least you don't have the stress of driving. I'd recommend getting taxis, you know, if you're going from Canggu to like Uluwatu or Karamus, or checking somewhere else out, because that's, and you've got all your baggage with you. So if you're moving locations, that can be the best way to go as well. So if you're combining that sort of digital nomad surfing lifestyle in Bali, which like me and a lot of other people are, there's some sick co-working spaces in and around town. You know, if you want somewhere to head and just be productive, check out Work Bali, Tribal Bali, Tropical Nomad. There's some wicked spaces where you can head, pay the daily fee, or they also offer like weekly and monthly memberships. So they're really good places to head and just be productive and get loads of stuff done between surf sessions. So I hope you've enjoyed this breakdown of surfing in Canggu. It's a super popular place nowadays. You know, it's attracts surfers of all abilities from all over the world. It is pretty hectic and it is super busy, but for me, to be honest, it's definitely still worth going. I still love it. I find the waves to just be really fun. You know, it's not like that classic, like amazing Indo reef break sort of place that you might come to Indo for. But if you just want somewhere like normal and easy and convenient, Canggu just has all of it. You've got all those different waves in such a short space. You can come in, you can get work done, you can stay wherever you want to stay, eat whatever you want to eat. So I just think it's quite a cool place to be productive and get waves and just have all those like conveniences and comforts of home. So yeah, I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe if you have, and I'll see you in the next episode.